Hey everybody, Coach here. Hey, we're gonna try something a little different this week for you. I thought, since we're in the planning part of the year, it might help you if you have a project coming up next year to kind of look at it from a designer's and contractor's perspective. So we're gonna walk through an initial consult that I would do with a client and what I would look for and look at as the designer, as a contractor, and starting to draw things up. And as I do this, I'm going to use technology a little bit in order to point out some of the things that if you have, you might want to address one way or another. There's lots of things to look at here. I'm glad you're here, so let's get rolling on this unique version of Yard Coach this week. Let's get going. Okay, this is our avatar home. We've been graciously allowed to come on here, talk about your blank slates. All there is fallen leaves and grass. So literally you could create anything you want here depending on how big your checkbook is. So are you with me on this one? Let's start talking about the dwelling first, then we'll talk about the landscape, we'll talk about features, wants and needs, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't want to make this too long, especially since everybody's busy this time of year. Okay, so welcome to our avatar property here. This is a bungalow, circa about mid-1950s, early 1950s. And what we're going to do is I'm going to point out some things that as I walk into a job site or a potential job site that I'm looking at. And the very first thing that I'm looking at with this one is the dwelling itself and the lack of egress that is, easy for the homeowner. So there's also a couple other things, and I want to show you that right now too. So if you will look, number one, no gutters whatsoever. And when you have no gutters, that means that all water and everything is going to come off the roof and drop right at your foundation. And that's the situation that we have here. We have no gutters at all and no way for water to disperse out into the landscape. The other thing is we have a slope. If you see it right there, we have a slope at the foundation. And the way it slopes, it goes from the stairway down to this corner, which is a crawl space underneath. So any water that falls here is going to migrate right up to the crawl space door, which is very poorly constructed, and it's just going to soak the underside of it. Now, having been in this house quite a few times now, I know that the floors are really spongy. And this might be one of the direct causes of this. So another thing is grading. All the slope goes towards the house. And it's pretty darn flat out here. This is farmland in North Carolina. So slope goes towards the house. So during a very, very heavy rain event or hurricanes that come in here, and they have, you are going to get water that is going to go towards the house and not be where it should be exactly the opposite. The water should go away from the house like that. So water comes out this way. So there would be a lot of regrading that's going to have to be done here, certainly in a mega power equipment mode. The other thing is there is no place anywhere to have an outdoor living area. Where this faces right now, west is kind of like that way. So during the heat of the summer, the sun traverses, I'm going to try to kind of arc it here for you, about like that. And so that there is no shade whatsoever in this backyard, none. There's lots of shade in the front yard. So when you're talking about convenience of navigation, I've done a couple of shorts on this, is this here, this is the only avenue coming in and out, which is not a big deal, but it's where it comes out into the yard. It doesn't come out onto a deck. It doesn't come out onto a patio. It comes out onto a mixed grass, weedy lawn area. Then you have other things like utility lines over here for clothes, a clothesline. And so if you are taking laundry from just inside this back door and going to put it on the line out there, you're going to have to walk out across, you know, sticky wet lawn most of the time here. And it's quite a ways away. So one of the things that I would probably suggest is removing one of those clothesline, just going to one, and having a retractable off the house here, where if you came out, you would just extend it out to it, and you'd be able to do your laundry right from here, still have plenty of sun, plenty of breeze to take care of that business. So another thing that I see here off to my left is the propane tank for the house is sitting kind of almost in a ditch over there. And then they've run the lines all the way under the house, and then the regulator is here. Then it goes underneath the house again and comes up into the wherever. I don't know where it comes in. So this guy right here needs to get rethought, and it needs to get, well, number one, it needs to be in a safer location for sure, and it needs to be stabilized over there for sure, because it's on like 3 cinder blocks and that's it. So as far as the regulator and the exposed propane lines, yeah, that just does not cut it whatsoever. The other thing is these guys right here. Now these are old Dish Network and another provider of some kind that doesn't have looks like an older one. But these guys, this is not where they go. These could be mounted to eaves, they could be roof mounted, but they don't need to be down here at ground level and then held in with ugly broken cinder block, which is down underneath down here. That's basically the prop. So I would suggest that these get relocated and remounted. And only this one looks like it has a direct line, and that one needs to just go bye-bye, period. Okay, another thing that I always look at is when I'm looking at the house, is which windows face where. Now, we talk about this window right here. This is the master bedroom window. And what would they actually, what point of view would they be looking out onto? So from the master bedroom window area, this is the view. And now right now, this agricultural field out here, which is part of probably 200 acres, maybe 150 acres, and it's planted right now with winter wheat. But during the summertime, I'm told that this is 9 feet high in corn. And so you have a lot of agricultural lack of privacy here, period. You have tilling, you have planting, you have rowing, you have feeding and weeding, you have harvesting, you have tilling at the end. So there is zero privacy from here. Plus, a lot of the windows on the back of the house, this one here, the master bedroom I just pointed out, if you look at them from the aspect of this photo right here, here's our neighbors, here's the county road right there, and basically from where I'm standing, looking out that way, you get high beams and headlights coming right around the turn out in the highway, and you'll have looky-loos, not on purpose, but you'll have people over here that have full-on views. There's a lot of old Scarlet Toyon that used to be, decades ago, probably a very good privacy screen. But as you can see, they are decimated. They're decimated not only from very, very old storm damage, but they're lifelong. They're too old. You know, Scarlet Toyon generally last about 25 years. I'll bet you these things here are 40 plus, and they needed to go a long time ago. So most likely I'll be suggesting that all of that gets removed. Then you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision on privacy. Do you want it as a combination of hardscape, like fencing? You could do fencing around this property very, very easily. The ground is so soft to dig in. It's a sandy loam here, and you could put fencing 3/4 of the way around this, probably 6.5 feet tall. And then in front of that, say right here, along there, along this area, all along here. Then you could start a greenscape in front of it, and then you could get evergreens and other things that would get up 10, 12 feet tall. And then you have other shade trees that are over here on the east side that would help a little bit in the shade cast in the morning. But I would also get some new shade trees over here in the northwest corner, right in this area, and closer in. So another design concept that I always try to teach DIYers, and that is a width versus height. And here we have a wall height that's about 8 feet tall at the vertical versus the roof line. So right around 8 feet tall, maybe 9, down to here. So I'm going to suggest to them that they have beds that are at a minimum of 4 feet wide. So we're going to suggest that those beds come out at least to here, 4 feet from there to there. And what you're going to find is when you do that, that's a minimum. But when you do that, you have a visual balance in your brain that comes to work for you. And what it does is it looks like the horizontal plane and the vertical plane are balanced. Here, my gosh, I would probably make the bed closer to, I don't know, closer to way out, and probably have much more of a wandering bed. And then I know that this place has a septic tank and leach field that comes out basically right around here. And it comes out about 20 feet or so. So if you look at it, here's our septic tank. This is where the vault is, right about here. And if you can't tell, I'm down about a foot, probably right over it. I'll bet you this tank is less than 12 inches underneath my feet right now. So we know that we're not going to be able to plant really involved, heavily rooted type of trees really close. And we're going to have to determine where the outflow and the actual leach field is. I don't know which direction it goes, whether it goes out west, whether it goes out east, or if it branches here right at the box and has like a D box that goes out right towards you guys in the camera. Okay, so another point that I'm going to bring up is where is it located? And if you need it, where is irrigation coming from? In this case, our well pump, pressure tank, and single only hose bib in this whole property sits in this pump house right here. And it is not a powerful beast at all. As a matter of fact, it would probably have to be upgraded in order to do any sort of supplemental irrigation here. But most likely, you're going to need it probably just for a drip system. And I know that these people would like to have some vegetables and fruit trees and that kind of stuff. And even though we do have consistent rain here, recently, the tap is turned off. Mother Nature's kind of turned the rain off during the growing season, unlike she has. I mean, I've heard horror stories from some of the farmers here that soybean crops and other things have been damn near failing because there's just no summer rain in the formidable time when soybeans and corn really need that extra push, that extra water to form up the corn cob or form up the soybean bean in order to make a good crop. So right there is something that's going to have to be removed. It's going to have to be updated, and then a bigger and better pressure tank, and probably a well person coming out here and determining the depth of the well, the gallons per minute that come out, and at what PSI. I have turned on the hose bib here, and I'm probably saying at most 25 PSI comes out of that hose bib. And the shower here as well, indoors, is probably about 25. So for a functioning landscape irrigation, you're probably going to need that at a minimum 40 PSI, but most appropriate would be about 60 PSI with a kickoff at 60 at the high point and a low point kickoff at about 40. So 60 to 40 would be able to run any type of irrigation system you want. You probably have to have a few more valves. All right, another thing that I see here that I want to point out to you guys is we have no place for any sort of outdoor living area or anything else for to come out here, and if we put up a shade arbor or something for the hot summer sun, no place here for outdoor living. Everything here at this property, you go out front where the big pecan trees and other things, there's a cedar tree, that's where your shade is. And here, not so much. I don't think in this shallow water table that coming in here and putting a large patio in is the call of the day. I think I would suggest to them that we put up a freestanding, I wouldn't even attach it to the dwelling. I would put a freestanding deck about 12 inches, maybe 18 inches above the grade, making it nice and level, and then having some type of a walkway that it would descend onto and be able to go around the side of the house here and traverse through the utility area and into the front yard. So mainly a deck that would stop right about there. I'm thinking maybe 300 square feet, something like that, would probably work. And I'll see if I can get a better picture. Some type of a deck that would be similar to that, where you would have probably plants in this area here, and then the decking would be here, and you would have a nice egress point coming out of the kitchen area, and then having a durable walkway that would traverse around the side here and then around the side going that way as well. And when you do that, you give yourself a nice outdoor area, but you still have access to the septic vault. So I'm standing just about where the vault is. So you would have a good 20 feet out, 15 feet over, and then maybe a little bump in. And then that swooping bed near the house where the elbow is, and then further on and around the corner. Then where the master bedroom is, we would have a bed line that would be so our deck area would be finishing up here, and then traversing to a walkway that would go out and around the house and over, down the side, and to the front yard, eventually connecting all the way to the front door. And then inside that walkway would be your foundational beds, probably 2-tier along the master bedroom window area and 3-tier in the back corner. And that, I think, would probably work out really well and still give you access when you have to pump out the septic tank. You could even do it with a drop lid in the deck itself and be able to access down in there. Probably ask them to put an extension on it so that it would be right at ground level and easily accessible. And then if they sell the place, it would still have plenty of access points to where the inspection could be done in both ports, and to look at the D-box and the egress where it's leaving the tank and where it's coming into the tank, which most septic tanks, that's what they want anyway. So what about irrigation valve placement? Most likely, because of the septic field, we are not going to have big trees in close to the house because we don't want the leach lines or anything else getting infiltrated with roots. So most of this is still going to be a lot of turf out here. I would probably scalp this up and reseed it or resod it and have a much more consistent type of lawn. And then when we're scalping it, we get that done, this whole area needs to get regraded, laser level graded. That means a lot of the soil is going to have to be brought towards the house, probably up to the walkway area, so we have at least 4 inches, because I would probably pour walkways right on top and then grade to it so that the water slopes away towards the back field back here, and all these little divots that are here, because the camera is not going to pick it up. This is going to be up and down all over through here, and it needs to be laser leveled. It needs to be sloped away from the house and towards the field, towards the ditch over by the propane tank. And so water, including what comes off the roof, is diverted away. So probably a catch basin or 2 out here in the lawn, gutters that transfer and manage water off the roof line into a drainage system, and take that drainage system out over to the utility area and dump it into the drainage ditch that's over there. That's the easiest, least complicated. The more complicated is bringing it to a central location like a sump pump vault and then pumping it to the ditch if we do not have enough fall going to there. So one of the challenges that this place really has. So to wrap up, we talk about slope and foundation, where this sits. We have very high dirt levels on the foundation at one point, low dirt levels on another point. Installing gutters and doing a water management drainage system here. Durable walkways that traverse from an outdoor living area all the way around the house, both sides, and having things like this old AC unit. There's an electrical conduit here. There is a gas line conduit that is just sitting there, stubbed up. It needs to get removed. There's foundation beds that could be put in right along here. This crawl space needs to get boarded up and sealed so that we don't have rodent and varmint intrusion underneath the house. And then nice, firm walkways that take you around to the front of the house and to the front porch area, to a driveway area that needs to be done, but that's a whole nother story. And then what kind of luxuries would the client want to see out here? Well, with an outdoor living space, one of the things that they have here that can be greatly upgraded is they just have cinder block for a fire pit. And it could probably be done a lot better and certainly brought in a little closer so you're not all the way out into the turf area, and then maybe have something that is a little bit formal, maybe a formal structure over it. Maybe there's a place for hammocks, maybe there's a place for lounge chairs that could be put there and on the deck as well. So many things, but it all depends on what the budget is. And like I've said countless times, establish the budget first, then landscape to that budget. If you do it in the opposite way, you will always end up doubling, tripling, and quadrupling the amount of money it's going to take because you're doing your wants ahead of your needs, ahead of your checkbook. So keep that in mind. You know, I really hope this has kind of shown a little bit of light on what a designer looks at, what a contractor looks at, and some of the challenges that are faced here, you know, in an avatar type of situation. Will these people do this? I don't know. None of my business. All I'm using it as a prop and a stage for what I look at when I go to a job site. If you guys have any questions regarding how to lay out your prospective type of project, email me at youryardcoach@gmail.com if you have questions. I'm always available to you. Anyway, hey, that's what I have for you this week. Don't forget the plan of the week. And as always, since I'm coming to you in the holiday season, have a good, happy, and safe holiday season. And as always, to your landscape success. Take care.